that shirt.
You heard that here first, folks. We were almost matching for today's pod. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome back to another episode of Always Almost There, Day After Show Live. I would say this is our first official day after show of this tour, wouldn't you, Neil? Like this begins regular potting.
No, it doesn't begin regular potting. It's maybe the start of it, but we're going to go back to kind of one-off single set potting, and then we're going to go back to two set potting after that. So like Goose, we've had a long run of not doing regular day after shows. This is the first one in a while. I agree with you on that one.
Yeah.
But in a few days, we're going to do one that again feels awkward and short and all of that stuff. And then we'll get back to the regular thing with Chicago shows. I'm excited.
We at least now know how long they're playing for on Wednesday. But we'll get to that later. Before we get going,
yes.
I don't know if anybody has seen our social media, but we are very, very excited for this tour. We are partnering with Hannah and Kait, a.k.a. the Cacao Girls. So tell you a little bit about what they're doing. If you've ever wanted to elevate your concert experience beyond your usual pre-show routine, Hannah and Kait have created something amazing called the Conscious Pregame. Whether you're at the show or on the couch, they guide you through cacao ceremonies and meditative rituals to ground your energy, open your heart, and connect more deeply with the music, the moment, and the community. They lead these pre-games for fans and for the band. If you've ever seen those white mugs on stage, that's cacao. And those help everybody get on the same wavelength for the show. I've personally experienced these ceremonies firsthand a few times and can't recommend them enough. There's something magical about approaching a Goose show with that kind of mindful presence. So if you visit hannahandkait.com and use code AATPOD, you can get 15% off any purchases over $25, which includes in-person tickets to their October 3rd Conscious Pregame in Richmond, which I believe is at a low ticket warning right now. So get those before it's too late. At-home cacao kits for couch tour and bags of cacao for you to make your own drinks. They also just posted on their Instagram yesterday, I believe it was, but Hannah.and.Kait, I think. I should have looked that up before. But if you check out their Instagram, they've got a whole list of all of their offerings for this fall tour, which includes, stuff for you to do at home, as I've mentioned. Highly recommend. Highly recommend.
Highly recommend. Two things I want to say right now. I like chocolate milk, and that's the most I'm going to sing it right now. And two, endorsing something like this is exciting because I think it's something you and I both believe in. I think, kind of setting your intentions before you go into an experience is a wonderful thing. Strongly recommend everybody should give it a shot. hannahandkait.com.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man. I'm excited about that. Yeah.
Me too. And, we'll talk more about that as tour goes on. But
yeah,
we've got last night's show to talk about. We were both in Burlington last night. We had a great time. I had a great time. I don't know about you, but
I had a fantastic time. I mean, I think I would have just driven up to Burlington just to hang out and watch the sunset. And then everything else was gravy after that. It was a really beautiful experience.
It really was. The setting was great. I would say the only problem was, we've talked, my mom and I talked about this a bit today on our drive home, but allowing chairs behind the soundboard without taking into account that it's kind of a small park, and then selling the amount of tickets as if everybody was standing, it was a little cramped in the first set. But as with most GA venues, inexplicably, at set break, half the crowd disappeared. Where did they go? I don't know. But this happens anywhere there's a GA area. Set break happens, and half the people disappear.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's Sunday night. Folks had to get to bed early. Show ran a little bit later than I thought it was going to. So,
yeah.
I mean, all kinds of things could have been happening there.
I think we had heard that it was a 10:30 curfew, but I guess it was a soft curfew. Because they played until like close to 10:45, I think.
Yeah, I think I was surprised by that. I was actually expecting the show to end at 10. I had heard, I don't know who I had heard that from, but it was like 7 to 10 and it was going to be tight the whole entire night. And I was like, ugh. Like the show's going to be rough as a result. And like the encore probably was going to be kind of, bad as a result of that. Turns out The way it ended
which
was pretty good.
well, which
Greatest
we
encore
thought
ever.
which we thought when they started playing Tumble, we were like, bad encore, 6-minute Tumble.
Bad. Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, so
We'll
we'll
get
get
there.
to that.
We should talk about the rest of the show because it turns out this show was pretty good.
Yeah.
So as Goose
great.
does, they start strong. So
yeah,
not like that other band.
Few stats to get into here. This is Goose's first proper. I guess it's not a proper Goose show according to the arbiter of all things proper be done because they're guests. But
Not
this is
proper
the
Goose.
first headline 2-set Goose show since Westville. So it has been 10 weeks. While they've only played like 5 or 6 shows in that span, they were all, it was like the radio gig and opening for Dave at the Gorge and, Park City where it was 2 60-minute sets. So they have not had the opportunity to be Goose in a Goose setting with their rules and whatever they want to do since Westville, which is a long time. And I think I was kind of expecting going into this show that we would get some pretty substantial jamming, which we did.
We did.
But just because they would be so excited to be able to let loose and be Goose and, Peter getting to play his new Rhodes at a Goose show for the first time, stuff like that.
Yeah. And a show without a hunger site, which I think they have not played a show without a hunger site in 11
or a hot
and a half
tea.
Years. Yeah, no kidding. How about that?
Been a lot of tea.
Not a hunger site.
Yeah. And this is also Cotter's first hometown show as a member of Goose.
This is the first time Goose has played Burlington in a million years.
Like Nectar's probably.
It's got to be like maybe even was Peter even in the band? Like I don't even know. I feel like I meant to go look this up and I forgot.
We can look.
I mean, they played Essex Junction like however many years ago. I was at that show. It was a fantastic show. And then before that, it was clubs.
All right, so there's one show. So they played Nectar's a ton of times. Last time was November 30th, 2018. And they played Orlando's Bar and Lounge on July 25th, 2019. That is the last time they played in Burlington, featuring special guest Josh West on percussion.
No idea who that is.
Adam, if you're watching, there's a guest for you to add for that show. Well, so last night, we kicked things off. Cotter did not wear a Burlington specific insane outfit, which, I was curious about. There were sightings of him in a motorcycle helmet earlier in the day, but I think he couldn't fit his in-ear monitors under the helmet. But
also get quite hot. As a drummer, I think he has worn lots of head coverings, but that one might be over the top.
It's true.
But
it's true.
Before we talk about the music, I want to talk about a thing.
Yes.
So, the Grinch's heart grew 10 sizes yesterday. And Ryan Storm agreed to help facilitate a stream. So kudos to you, Ryan, who refuses to stream. And I was going to do it all, and then you kind of took the wheel, and I'm proud of you.
That's kind of what happens. I'm kind of a control freak sometimes. I don't know if you know that about me. And so
so all I had to do was introduce the idea.
Well, actually, all you had to do was supply the extra cell phone to run the stream off of. And a huge shout out to Loomis for hosting the phone at front of house. You may have heard him talking a little bit before the show, and then he moved it away from his microphone.
That was funny. Where he's like, "Can I go to the bathroom? Is the band at the stage? I need to know if I can go to the bathroom."
But it all worked out well. So thank you again to Loomis for making that happen, and thank you to Neil for that. But and
inspiration.
Appropriately. I named the channel Consumed by Media when setting it up yesterday. I figured that was good, and then they opened with it. But also, see, we're all over the place. This is what happens.
Yeah, let's talk about the music.
We're getting back into the rhythm, but we got to see a little bit of sound check. For real fans who were there around sound check time.
I was going slow. I was on Vermont time, man.
So the park is totally open here until kind of midway through sound check when they cleared us out. But there's a bike path around the back of where they were playing. It's literally just on the water. So you could just walk up and walk sound check. They had it roped off in front of the soundboard, but behind it, you could just stand there so that, the band took the stage, kind of a crew, probably a couple hundred people taking it in. We got a nice little, I'd say probably 10 to 15 minute jam I described it as kind of like a clean funk jam. Hit a nice peak. Nothing too crazy. Nothing like, nothing like the All Good jam that's like, really, really amazing.
Jam of the year.
No. But then one thing I love that Goose does, a lot of the time their sound checks are rehearsals for stuff they're going to play that night. But when it is a quote unquote public sound check, when fans can access it somewhere like All Good or Yesterday or Summer Camp in 2023, whatever songs they play are for that audience basically. So you're getting a few bonus songs, but they don't play them at that show. So Yesterday, they rehearsed Iguana song and Royal, neither of which got played last night. And then after security kicked us out, they rehearsed Atlas with the guests. But it was cool. It's always cool to me that they purposely, don't play the songs that they're planning on playing later in the show.
Yeah, I had both of those in my picks too. So interesting that they chose to play them because they were both as due as songs can get. Iguana song, it's been an eternity, but
Iguana song was last played at Westville. It's just
it still feels like an eternity. I mean, it's
yeah.
like 7 shows, I think, something like that. That's a lot of shows for Iguana song.
That's fair.
When it's on in every 4th show rotation, which it had been up until that point. So,
in June, yeah. Well, let's dive into the show itself now.
Let's talk about the music. We've been trying now for 11 and a half minutes.
Well, here we are. Now we're going to do it. Out of the gate with some Cotter. My mind has been consumed by media. Nothing crazy here. But let's talk about this because then we can talk about the segment that comes after.
Segments. This is a big Brian Brinkman show. Brian Brinkman, huge fan of the segment. Ryan Storm, not a fan of the segment. Big segment show. But what?
I'm a fan of the segment. Just
you're a fan of the segment, yeah, just not in the context of ranking jams. But let's not go down that road. That's for a conversation between you and Brian. In any case, my mind has been consumed by media. That was like I was like, we're opening with Meter Maid.
I thought so.
And maybe we have like 1 or 2 guys from Swimmer come up. That didn't happen at all.
They were there. So they got a shout out.
They did get a shout out, yeah. And so, yeah, my mind has been consumed by media. It was good, and I should have known that was coming. I should have played both of those songs in my fantasy picks. But yeah, I don't know. What are we doing here? We're just doing that one, or are we going to go right through?
Well, you can't talk about. You want to talk about the Cotter tune, and now we can talk about the meat of this set and the best part of this show, in my opinion, which is A Western Sun, Rockdale, Atlas Dogs. You will notice that I did not include
say the last Rockdale
in this, which we will talk about. But let's talk about this 3-song segment here, because first of all, Western Sun, obvious pick given the sunset, and
again,
yeah, like they always will do that. If there's a sunset happening, Western Sun's going on the set list. And this also happened, Western Sun and Atlas Dogs in the same set, being like, man, how lucky are we that these are consistent jam vehicles again?
Yeah.
Thank God.
Well, and net result is good stuff. I think this is the beginning of me kind of my overall thoughts on this show. You're getting jamming in places where you don't normally expect jamming, even though there's been some jammed out Western Suns, there's been some jammed out Atlas Dogs, and the jamming that you do get is somewhat of a surprise. So this Western Sun jam is that classic rock style, very Grateful Dead like, and boy, do I love it when they do this. Every time they do it, it rules. I think back to the Broswood of years past, and it sounds exactly like that jam to me. Of course, I mean the Rosewood Heart from what was the name of that festival?
Borderland, Festival.
Borderland,
9/15/23. That's actually 2 years ago today.
How about that? Yeah,
Rosewood.
So maybe they just thought of Broswood. They looked back in this year in Goose history, and they're like, let's do another Broswood, but this time while the sun is setting.
But it's going to be 12 minutes long. It's going to be a Western Sun, and it's not going to have DAWs. So
it's not going to have DAWs. Yeah, all of those things.
This kind of Western Sun jam is characterized, to me, by like that kind of like snappy ride cymbal thing that Cotter does on it.
He was going bananas.
You know what I'm talking about? But I mean, he played his ass off all night. He's got to impress all his Burlington friends,
Yeah.
Not that he never doesn't play his ass off, but yeah, the Western Sun, like great early peak, and then the segue into Rockdale was just phenomenal.
Very good.
Like, so good. Like,
Yeah.
we're going to see 2 examples of segues in this set.
Yeah.
This is the good one. This is
there's
phenomenal.
good segues in the show, and there are bad segues in the show.
Yes.
And you and I were talking before we hit record on this thing, and I noticed personally some rust in the band, not in this segment, but later on in the show. And you say maybe not, maybe it's just like a couple rough segues. But this one here is beautiful. You called this segue very early. I think Tamara was impressed. I was impressed.
What I do.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean that was neat, and I like the segue into Rockdale. I mean that's just a cool way to do it.
Yeah,
and
there
just
are
all
a few,
around.
There are a few really cool segues into Rockdales. Like Goose last year, insane.
Yep.
This one, insane. But yeah, it's the way that they took their time after the peak and just kind of wound it down into that like minimalist funk zone, and then Cotter really pulling off that transition and starting to play the Rockdale beat. And then at that point, like Rick and Peter can just draw it in, and it's just right there. So again, Cotter gets the credit here for this. And, our next segue here, Cotter doesn't get the opportunity to do said thing. But let's talk about this Rockdale, because this is like 14, 15 minutes, and it like covers so much ground.
It's unreal.
Oh my God.
So I immediately am reminded, not in the moment. In the moment, I was like, this jam is incredible. It must have been 25 minutes. Of course it wasn't. And this reminds me of what was going on in February, where they jump into the jam section, and all of a sudden they are just like getting into the good stuff. There's no slow transition. There's no kind of finding where they're going. They immediately dive into insane jamming, excellent jamming. I don't know. You can call it all kinds of things.
Both. Insane.
As it was happening, I was like, this is the good stuff. This is what makes the excellent jams that we love to talk about at the end of the year.
Yeah.
And of course, we didn't get enough of it.
Well, and outside of Iowa Creatures, we haven't had a quote unquote notable jam since the Westville All I Need, basically. So it's been a long time.
There are nights when it just starts happening, and it happens so easily and so well for them. Last night was one of those nights, and you knew right at this moment, after the Western Sun, and then this thing happens, you're like, oh, so it's going to be one of those nights where everything we touch turns to gold.
Yeah.
And that ultimately is how I feel about the show from beginning to end. Not saying it's an all-timer show, but I do believe there was consistently excellent jamming throughout, even in parts that are typically mundane, which we'll get to in a minute also.
And I will say, in this Rockdale, it may only be 14, 15 minutes, but based on the number of shows that we have left in the year and the number of songs that I currently have on my Jam of the Year playlist, this is going on my playlist.
Yeah, sure.
There's too much improv. Like I think of the Cincinnati Pancakes from last year. That was 15 minutes. That was on the playlist. Like, this is a more than worthy entry. They like the way that they go into this initial like hypnotic airy space, as you said, Neil, just departed normal Rockdale jamming so quickly. Sometimes it takes them 9 minutes to get past a Rockdale peak before they get out there. And this reminded me, actually, I mentioned it earlier because of the segue, but Goose last year, how quickly that Rockdale just transformed and got out there. And so I think this was a similar thing. You have this very hypnotic, psychedelic, airy vibe. And then
Dutch, man.
Yes, exactly. That drawn out clav that Peter's doing. And then Rick just bringing in this like brooding, heavy, dark vibe, and goes through this peak. And then there's this transition, the transition space before they hit Atlas Dogs from there, where I would hesitate to like be upset at this ripcord because the Atlas Dogs is really sick and the Rockdale is really sick. But I think Peter and Cotter and Trevor were just like, they were just starting to cook here. Like there was like this Fiddler's Madhavon type moment where Cotter hit the double time and Peter was doing that kind of like windy synth thing over this very minimalist backdrop. And it was really cool. And then Rick was like, Atlas Dogs.
Yeah. I, in the moment, didn't disagree with the turn into Atlas Dogs. Again, it felt like it had been longer. And I feel
Yep.
like they did explore the musical idea that they were exploring
Absolutely.
well enough where it was just like, okay, we either do another thing in this jam or we move on to the next thing. And yeah, I'm not upset about this attempt at a
That's why. Well,
segue
that's why I
here.
said I was hesitant
Yeah.
to call it a ripcord.
But so you and I have differing thoughts on this segue into Atlas
Yeah.
Dogs. I want to talk about my take of this, which it really felt to me where Peter just wasn't doing what Rick wanted him to do. And like Rick tried like a little thing, like trying to get Peter to follow. And Peter like tried to follow, but didn't do what Rick wanted. Then Rick tried something else. And then Peter tried a thing and it didn't work. And then all of a sudden Rick just seemed to kind of say, all right, enough's enough. We're just bringing it all down to almost nothing. And then we're going to start Atlas Dogs, which is what ended up happening. And that to me signaled that they just really haven't been jamming together a whole ton lately. And that's the vibe that I got. So there's like a weird thing, man. There's like creative jamming stuff, and then there's like stuff like this where they're finding their way into composed segments, and that felt kind of jammed in there. Like they just hadn't been doing enough of that kind of thing lately. So it's interesting. Time off, I think, can spark creativity in jamming, but it also can harm you on stuff like this. I hope that point
you have to find the
makes
sweet
sense.
spot, of time off. Enough time that the creativity spark is there, but not too much that now you haven't played together in a long time and you're not synced up. Yeah, I'll agree, but I also think that Goose does this sometimes. Where they will be heading for a segue and they will either just do a full stop and then start the song or kind of, botch the transition, which is something they're getting better at constantly, obviously. But it's still something that I feel like they kind of do all the time, which is like so close.
In any case, we shouldn't spend too much time talking about the segue because the
let's
thing
talk
that comes
about this
after is
jam.
kind of remarkable.
Let's talk about this fucking jam. This Atlas Dogs is amazing. The Goose is back, folks. The Goose is back.
We had wondered, like, was the Goose gone forever? It had been several shows with no Goose at all.
Festival. It's all festival shows. That's the thing. It's been several shows and it's been a long time, but like there hasn't been a show where there's been an opportunity for the Goose to happen.
Yeah, it's just so awkward. There's like Goose shows that aren't Goose shows.
Yeah.
And which is what I was joking about at the beginning of the show, where there's day after shows haven't been the same either.
Yeah. And so
maybe it's just the absence of the Goose.
We talked about pretty much all of June or like the latter half of June. Like, what is the trajectory for the Goose? Is this a gimmick that happens in June? They do it. MSG Tumble's kind of the pinnacle. And then they, by the time they come back in the fall, they're moving on. Or do they continue to explore that jamming style in a new way and try to break it open even more? And it turns out it's the latter.
It's the latter.
Which is
or at least Peter had done some homework and figured out a new way to use.
Peter got a Rhodes.
Peter got the Rhodes. And I mean, well, I'll let you talk about this thing, but like I want to say some things, but like I know you're excited to say the words. So just say the words.
Ring Mod Rhodes. 3 words. 3 glorious words. Let me tell you, Neil, how excited was I when Peter turned on the ring mod?
Well, like the very first few moments of the ring mod are ring mod in an incredible amount of delay.
Yeah.
And it's nuts. And then he actually dials back the delay a little bit and then just digs into the ring mod.
Like,
yeah.
Anyway,
so if you're listening at home and you're wondering what the hell is the ring modulator, so Fish makes heavy use of this. It is like the exact moments of it's just Trey, but where it sounds like a robot. Beep, boop, 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 that stuff. Yet somehow Peter found a way to make that sound like dance music. And that was really fucking cool. Like, I have to wonder how he stumbled across that. It certainly didn't happen last night. That was like something he kept in his back pocket that he wanted to use.
No, I mean, so the Rhodes that he has now, the Rhodes Mark 8 has like a ton of onboard effects. I think the ring mod is one of them. And so I'm sure just like, screwing around with it when he was getting to know the instrument, he was like, oh, this is cool. Like I can use this in a Goose. What's different here, that was in every previous Goose jam, there's no like backing track, the sequencer, the arpeggiator. Those are not present in this Atlas Dogs. we hear kind of the percussion backing track thing in the tumble. But for this Atlas Dogs, the jam starts, Cotter hits into the Goose zone, and they build it
just straight hi-hat.
organically without, well, he the clap, the clap sample. But they build that organically without the arpeggiator, without, the ring mod is something that I've been talking about incessantly and allegedly makes neat sounds. Thank you, Mom.
Yeah, it does. Well, the ring modulator is such a interesting effect because it's really hard to use and have it not sound like the same thing. It's like one of those pedals, like you get to play with it and you just like make weird sounds for a minute and it's like I can never use this for actually anything. It's just fun to fool around with. But we've seen Peter use it now in 2 really notable instances for completely different effects. So last night, like he definitely got like a an EDM vibe out of this thing that I never thought was possible with this thing. And of course, there's also the ring mod on the piano in the Westville Rockdale of last year, not this year, which is insane and sounds just like total chaos, which is what do you expect the ring mod to sound like. But in this case, the jam is excellent. And this is a completely out of left field approach to Atlas Dogs.
Like seriously.
I wasn't expecting any of this, and it was really good Goons. It pushed the boundaries of what they had done with the Goons in the past, and like you said, it was less. They had less stuff built up into it. This was more just full band kind of jamming.
Yeah,
and that sounded like EDM.
And we eventually got into Peter on guitar, Goons, the Sauce came out, and Cotter doing those builds.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah. I wonder if any attending relatives of members of the Disco Biscuits enjoyed that. So after that, Neil,
should have asked.
The Atlas Dogs wraps up, and as Goose tends to do, they don't like to leave songs unfinished per se.
Sometimes.
So we just gotta shoehorn in, the Rockdale ending here, and they did not land on time with each other.
They were not prepared.
No.
Somebody was not prepared. I mean, like Rick had it all lined up. This was another one where he kind of revved up the engine, expecting everybody to kind of fall in line, and there was no falling in line.
Well, the rest of them came in on a different beat, I think. Like Rick was playing, and then Peter, Cotter, and Trevor jumped in, but they were off. They were off time. So it
sounded bad.
They got it.
That's really the upshot. Sometimes you have some misses. It's improvisational music, and that one was a miss, man. It really was. And I'm sure they want that one back, but it's a very small moment in the show. And then otherwise, it's the Rockdale ending. It was good.
And they nailed it. And by they nailed it, I mean like eventually by the end.
Eventually, they nailed it. Once they kind of got in sync there, it was good.
Yeah. And then after that, we get some local Burlington guests on stage. Cotter playing the MC last night, of course. Peter gave him the mic for most of the show. But we've got Kat Wright on vocals, Bob Wagner on guitar, and Josh Weinstein on upright bass for a nice little cover of Atlas. This was a lot of fun. Nice little bass solo trading between Trevor and Josh. Some guitar trading between Bob and Rick. Bob playing that kind of like Derek Trucksy style slide SG.
Yeah.
It was fun.
It was good. I mean, it was good and bad. I think that they were trying really hard to squeeze something out of it improv-wise that just never materialized. Like they should have just stuck with the solo trading because it just they were not lining up at the end. Yeah. And that part was, whatever. So it's guests, man. This is what happens when you have guests. But we were joking when this was happening. So his name is Josh Weinstein, yes? On the double bass. Yeah. That was like that's
I guess it's the double bass,
Yeah. And we were joking that it was his live audition for whatever the next trio of, upright bass and 2 acoustic guitars thing is. And I would say he nailed it. They had that thing mic'd up strong, by the way.
I would say during the solo, it was great, but Loomis did a great job of not sounding like there were 2 bass players, stepping on each other during the jam.
Yeah, I mean, I think they were being really mindful of each other too. Yeah. I think it was like some real tasteful bass playing there. It wasn't like, Spinal Tap with like 3 basses and whatever. But in any case,
Big bottom.
you got the
That's good.
reference. That's amazing that you got my Spinal Tap reference.
I know Spinal Tap. I want to go see the new one that just came out.
Yes, I definitely need to see that.
Yeah.
I mean, I make a Spinal Tap reference at least once every 3 podcasts, and most of the time it goes unnoticed. But in any case, I digress.
First set closes out with Meter Maid into Flowdown. I would have rather them, played 6 minutes of a Meter Maid jam. They can purposely build to a big peak in that time rather than play Flowdown, but instead we get no jam on the Meter Maid, which I feel bad for the swimmer guys because like Meter Maid Cotter dedicated it to them at the end of the show, but like I guess they played the song.
Yeah, I mean it's weird to play Meter Maid without the jam because the jam is so good. It's like eating an Oreo cookie that somebody had taken the frosting out of the center of. So you're just eating the chocolate cookie parts, which is still good. But it's not as good as the stuff inside of the Oreo. That is the really good stuff, and you want as much of that as you can get. Yeah. And that is my analogy for the jamless Meter Maid, where you're kind of left scratching your head, saying, "Where's the really awesome part of this thing?" I don't know. And then you get Flowdown instead of delicious frosting. So, I don't know, man. It was a weird setlist choice. It's almost like when Atlas happened, the air kind of got let out of the tires.
Well, I mean that does kind of take the momentum out of the set for sure. I think coming out of that trio of Western Sun, Rockdale, Atlas Dogs, we were all like, hell yeah, like this is awesome. Like they are crushing it right now. And then from there, you lose a little bit of steam. But it is what it is.
It is the first set after all. They had to return to first set mode.
Yeah.
There's a lot of jamming there for a first set.
Exactly. Well, let's move on to set 2 here. We kick things off with an arrow. Long gap on this arrow. You gave me a number yesterday, which was just incorrect. Like even by your weird show gap math, I think you told me 17.
That's what I had in my notes. Yeah.
20.
Yeah. Well, here, let me check my notes here. I might have said 17 because I just like to pull numbers out of nowhere. It's kind of like what I do.
I'm going to guess that you didn't account for Fallon and
I don't
maybe
track
one
any
other
of those.
gig and maybe
I
one
have
other gig.
17. I had 17.
So it's been 20 shows, or it had been 20 shows since the last arrow, which is the longest gap since March 2020, which was 22.
Really?
So crazy stat there.
Well, I mean, everything's on the shelf right now. Do you want to take a minute just to pause on talking about this show and talk about some crazy show gaps on things right now?
Yes.
Okay. So Butter Rum, 29 shows.
Keep it going. Let's go.
Well, so on that same token, 29 shows, 726.
So bring it back.
I mean, it's nuts. Some of these. White Lights, 37 shows. Elizabeth, 39 shows. Old Man's Boat, 52 shows. Wisteria Lane, 20 shows. It's nuts. And Elmeg. So the Travelers they played last night was whoa. Shows.
We're not there yet.
Yeah. Or 26 if you count things like Fallon as a show. But yeah.
That's a lot of notable gaps on some notable songs, which is
big
weird.
Ones.
Like 726 has gone through these periods of not being played for 30, 40 shows before. But like something like Elizabeth just getting shelved out of the blue, or even Rum, which, I'm not complaining that they haven't played it since May, but it's weird.
It is strange.
Yeah. But anyway, this arrow coming off the shelf, not played since St. Louis. This is a good arrow. It comes in, I think, a hair under 20 minutes. And this is one of those jams where it doesn't go too far from the source, but the way that they pivot from arrow jam into this like kind of triumphant theme, so imperceptible that it was just kind of like, oh, like now they're doing this really cool peak jam.
Yes, and I thought it was great. more than a pretty good arrow. I think it was an excellent arrow. There was a stretch there where I was like, this is going to become one of those arrows that we talk about a lot. Then that didn't actually materialize, but it was still excellent. Again, like what I was saying before, just the touch was there, just things that were typically mundane sounded extra. And this arrow is the perfect example of that. It was just more. It was more arrow than we typically get in an arrow. And I was really digging it. I actually can't remember. Actually, I can remember. It was May the last time I was digging an arrow as much as that arrow. But because I love that arrow as well.
Gonzo arrow. Yeah.
The Gonzo arrow. Exactly. But yeah, man, this was really good. And I was grateful that it was really good because this could have gone a number of different ways. And it was excellent.
Well, and it was a long set break too. Like we were kind of, eye on the clock thinking that it was a 10:30 curfew and they came on at like 9:15.
Yeah.
And so we were already like, all right,
It's going to bag the set,
Well,
yeah.
And speaking of bagging the set, they go into Travelers. And you and I, we were both like, I was like, get a head start on the drive back.
There's a variety of emotions that happen. I realized last night rather that I need to not react the way I do when they play something like Travelers, which hadn't been played in almost 30 shows or whatever, because there are people there who are absolutely thrilled. Like, yes. Like I got it.
Now again, here's why. So we have what we think is under an hour left total in the show.
Right.
This is the second song of the second set. And for 2 years, or I guess just over a year, the beginning of Travelers means you are about to get approximately 30 minutes of Autumn Crossing with, not really jamming anything.
Yeah.
And wait, that's a big time suck. Autumn Crossing would have hit very nicely in the first set with the Sunset. They should try that sometime. But much to our delight, by the time they get into the solos of Travelers, it's like, we've gotten over it. And it's like, this is fantastic because this song rules. And they finish and they get into kind of the spacey interlude. Rick does the vocalizing and they get into that haze. And then they go into Thatch. And, I think everybody went nuts, but you and I particularly, we were both so happy.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to throw down,
Yeah.
We just gotten through that arrow. He was feeling really, really good. And then Travelers after that is a really, really slow song. But I mean, it's a good one. I do like Travelers in the second set, especially the synth solo in it is always wonderful. And yeah, it's just great there. It's super psychedelic and has always been that way since 2021. I think it's just always pretty cool. And then to start the dance party again after that was talk about perfect set listing calls. I mean, say what you will, like there were folks there who were like, yes, I'm finally getting my LMEG. I've been waiting a million years for that LMEG, like the guy in front of us. And he didn't get that, and I feel really bad for him. But we all needed the dance. And I think if you were there last night, like we were, you took a look around and you saw everybody was grateful for the opportunity to really, really dance hard. The funk was necessary in the moment, and it was super fun.
Yeah. And I love Travelers in this placement. And I love that now the precedent has been established for Travelers to be on its own again. This was the first standalone Travelers since June 30th, 2023. Been a couple of years. And I love this as kind of a transitional song in set 2, kind of 10 minutes. You kind of get that kind of cool down vibe, the introspection with the song. And then, Rick just absolutely like torches the ending solo in this one. And then using it as a launch pad into Thatch. Perfect. So good.
Turns out that Thatch wasn't so bad either.
No, it was not. It was not so bad.
It was happening.
Some crazy. So you get that kind of Spack Thatch vibe from Peter again. Cotter doing this like stop start thing with the groove. Peter goes to Rhodes for a bit. Like there's a lot happening, and I felt as though like didn't go too far outside of Thatch. You get that just like straight ahead funk build peak. But there's a lot of very active interplay and conversation between the band through this jam, which is again a hallmark of 2025.
Yeah, not much more to add there other than it was the right thing for that moment. I think it actually just did exactly what it needed to do. That part didn't need to go to total outer space
100%.
because there was an arc to this set list
Mhm.
that they were really trying to achieve, and I think they got it.
Yeah.
So,
And then our second of 3 sandwiches for the show happens as we come down from the peak, get into this old C, nice little cool down, get the ballad, and then back into Thatch, get a little dose of jamming. They play Cavern for a little while.
it's a little Cavern vibe in there.
A little bit.
People kept turning around to us and be like, "You hearing Cavern?" And it's like, "Yeah, man,
Yeah.
definitely heard it a little bit."
Yeah.
And then there was like a little bit of like a tweet prize thing after Rick was kind of doing like the ascending guitar thing that that Trey will do in the tweet prize, but. So it's very fishy. I feel like that maybe had to be intentional. I don't know. You're in Burlington. When in Burlington, you got to do like a little nod, maybe.
I don't think that the Cavern thing is a motif that they've done before in Thatch. Like it's just that fits within that key pretty easily. I think it was just more pronounced last night than maybe, or more at the forefront of it than it has been in the past. But that brings us to the end of set 2. And then, so they come back on. Well, first of all, they took like a 4-minute encore break, which
what the hell are they
like,
doing?
what do they do? Because also Tumble was on like the set list for the encore. Like, what were they? Maybe they were negotiating
it was
going past 10:30. Like
maybe that is what it was happening. I don't know. Maybe they were like looking at the clock saying like, I don't know. I mean,
Love
this
Light.
is tricky. Like playing over the curfew, at least that we knew of. Maybe there wasn't a curfew, but we suspected there was a 10:30 curfew.
Well, I think there was.
Hold on, let me finish the thought.
Yeah.
So this is outside. There are homes that you can see from where you're standing, and you're like, well, it's Sunday night. They probably got to finish it. So maybe there was some convincing that they had to do on their end. I don't know.
But there was a curfew, and I'm sure it was just like they had 15 minutes of leeway on the 10:30 because if there wasn't a curfew, the second set wouldn't have been like 63 minutes or whatever it was. Like it was just over an hour, or maybe it was close to. It was like 65 minutes or something. But at any rate, I don't think they would have truncated the set. Written set had Pancakes State of the Art after that.
That would have been cool.
Which would have been very cool.
Yeah.
I mean, you're a big.
This was just right. I like the way the set list flowed.
Well, so they come back on for the encore, and we were like, oh, it's gonna be a cover for sure. Like, what are they gonna play? And then they start Tumble, and we were like, well, 6-minute Tumble. We'll take the points, but like, kind of a waste of a Tumble.
Yeah.
And then they go past 10:30. We get a Shama, and then we get more Goose. Still no ARP, but the backing track, the percussion thing comes in, and they just like this peak is just ridiculous.
It's awesome. This is really, really good. And so if you listen to the stream at the very end, you can hear me say that was the best encore ever, which is kind of funny. And the point I was driving at was the improv at the end of this was spectacular. You don't get usually this kind of improv in an encore ever.
Right.
And this is a good segment of music. Very,
big
very
modern.
Yeah. Yes.
That's like one of the only other times. Yeah.
Yeah. We're getting some improv in this, and the improv is excellent. And of course it is the Goons as well. There's all kinds of things happening in this. And it's a very, very short segment of music. Again, it's a tricky thing. You can't do what you did, say, in 2021 with Goose, which is go and cherry pick out all the 20-minute segments on, just look for the 20-minute tracks and say like, oh, that's where all the good jamming is. That's not the case anymore in 2025 Goose, late 2024 Goose as well. You really got to find those moments. And this one is, I think that section, like Shama back into Tumbles, about 8.5 minutes. And lots of good stuff there.
Yeah,
hey, by the way, man,
minutes total.
Vibes guy. I think I'm becoming a Shama guy. I used to hate the Shama, not hate the Shama, but I, could take it or leave it. Yeah. But I had a really good time with the Shama last night. I was singing along, all kinds of people were singing along. It was great.
It was lovely. Lovely. Great way to go. And, Paige Caruso was there.
Oh yeah. I didn't even make the connection.
Allegedly, she has not been excited about a Shama since her first one.
Oh, is that so? Well, I mean, she got it,
Well,
so
she
good
got
for
another
her.
one. Yeah,
She got another one. Yeah.
with the family. All right. Well, that brings us to the end of a Sunday night in Burlington here. We will be back to talk about another 90-minute set of Goose. They are playing on Wednesday, and there's a stream from here until Philly. Every night is being streamed on Nugs, which is fantastic. Last night's show will be premiering on a date TBA as well. We will have the video. There was a Nugs crew there last night filming it, which is great. But Wednesday, Goose plays in Madison, co-headlining show with Mount Joy. And I think the most exciting part, by the way, if anyone here is going on Wednesday, I don't know if anyone knows this, but Andrew Getty does the lighting programming for Mount Joy. So he is not there touring LD, but all like the presets and the programming and stuff he designs before they go on tour. So sources are saying that Getty will be using some sort of hybrid light rig for Wednesday's Goose show, which is basically both rigs at the same time.
2 rigs at the same time.
Yeah, man. You know what I do? But anyway, if you're there, bring sunglasses. You might be dazzled a little bit. But that's gonna be cool.
Getty of Goose is going to sit in with Andrew Getty of Mount Joy.
Yeah,
a Getty on Getty sit-in. It's going to be something. 2 Gettys.
And notably, this will be the first show since Westville where all of Goose's gear is there. They will have their PA, their lights. The whole crew will be back. It's all very exciting.
You can see Coach again.
They might play Honeybee. They can play Honeybee now because Coach will be back on tour.
Coach will be there. Yeah.
So lots going on Wednesday, and then from there we are back on regular dates. You know, we've got nice Detroit and Chicago coming up this weekend. But we will see you on Thursday to talk about this Mount Joy show. The run of show came out today. Goose will be playing 7:30. Mount Joy will be playing at 9:30, and the show ends at 11. So I'm assuming that means that both bands will be playing 90 minutes, and there's a 30-minute changeover in the middle, which seems reasonable. Wish it was a little longer, but, you know, that's what it goes. Maybe Goose will start on time.
Let's hope. Every moment that they take is a slightly less amount of frosting inside of your Oreo, as it were.
This is the analogy now.
And the question on everybody's so much, dude.
There we go.
Great.
And the question on everybody's minds: will Matt Quinn try to redeem himself on California Magic? That is what we are wondering.
Instead of Matt Quinn, they should let Chris Quinn sit in on California Magic, and we might have better effect. But that's a conversation for another day.
Yes. All right. Well, everybody, thank you so much for joining us. Once again, a reminder and a huge shout out to our friends Hannah and Kait, the Cacao Girls. Go use code AATPOD over at their site, hannahandkait.com. Link is in the description if you're listening after the fact or watching live, and it's scrolling along the bottom of the screen here. But code AATPOD for 15% off any purchase over $25. Get those tickets to the Richmond Conscious pregame because they're going fast.
Yeah, you should do the Conscious pregame. Everybody should do it.
Yeah,
at least once. But so if you're listening to this and you can't see the banner at the bottom of the screen, hannahandkait.com.
Well, look in the text. You can look where you're listening to it because it's in the description.
It is in the description, but I'm going to spell it out for you really quick.
Please do.
HANNAANDKAIT.
Hey, you forgot an H. You forgot an H.
I said the H.
No, you said HANNA.
It's because you're talking while I'm trying to do the thing. All right, fine. I'm going to do it one last time. HANNAHANDKAIT.com. hannahandkait.com. Kate's not spelled the way you would expect.
No, it's not. And that's code AATPOD.
That's
and
AAT
so
pod.
Everybody, enjoy the rest of your Monday night. Thanks for tuning in. And Neil's going to sing us out with the Chalky Milk song. And we'll see you on Thursday.
I don't even know if I know it. I've agreed to do this thing.
He's gonna prepare for Thursday.
I like chocolate milk. Yeah.
There we go. That's good. All right, everybody, enjoy the rest of your night. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much for tuning in.